Kyle Schwarber's two-homer day powered the Phillies to a wild 7-6 win over Toronto, but the real fireworks came in San Diego, where the Padres blasted 4 solo home runs in a dominant win over Houston. The Washington Nationals cruised past the Cincinnati Reds 7-1, riding an early lead they never let go of. Abba Ortiz delivered the big blow with a solo home run, while catcher Keibert Ruiz was nearly perfect at the plate, going 3 for 3 with an RBI in a streaming-worthy fantasy line. C.J. Abrams and Andrew Pinckney each swiped a bag to add pressure on the bases, and on the mound Will Dion picked up the win, firing 3 scoreless innings with a strikeout to keep Cincinnati's lineup off balance. The Reds managed just enough offense to avoid the shutout, but Sal Stewart, Matt McLain, Tyler Stephenson, and J.J. Bleday were the only Reds regulars to reach base via hit, and none of it added up to real pressure. With Ruiz's clean day at the dish and Ortiz going deep, Washington controlled this one from wire to wire in front of over 21,000 fans at Nationals Park, improving their day with a comfortable 6-run win. The Athletics snapped a tight one on the road, edging the Boston Red Sox 4-3. Boston actually had bright spots at the plate. White paced the Red Sox offense, going 3 for 4 with an RBI, but it wasn't enough to overcome Oakland's late-game execution. Donovan Walton and Jeff McNeil each stole a base to manufacture runs. Closer Hogan Harris slammed the door with a scoreless inning to lock up the save, and Elvis Alvarado picked up the win with a clean inning of relief. The tougher story for Boston came at the plate. Andrew Monasterio, who entered the day riding a 9-game hitting streak, was held hitless and saw that run come to an end. Between White's multi-hit day going for naught and Monasterio's streak snapping, it was a frustrating 1-run loss for a Red Sox club that competed but couldn't finish the job against Oakland's bullpen. The New York Mets put on an offensive clinic in Pittsburgh, thumping the Pirates 11-1. Bo Bichette was the headliner, going a perfect 5 for 5 with 3 RBI to lead a Mets lineup that never let up, while Jared Young chipped in a 3 for 5 night with a run driven in. Francisco Alvarez and Luis Robert Jr. both went deep to pad the lead, and on the mound Sean Manaea was dominant, striking out 11 over 7 innings while allowing just 1 earned run to pick up the win. Pittsburgh's lone bright spot was Jake Mangum's solo home run, but the Pirates managed only scattered singles around it from Ronnie Simon and Brian Reynolds, nowhere near enough to answer New York's onslaught. With Bichette's 5-hit explosion pacing a fantasy-relevant day at the plate and Manaea locking things down on the mound, this was as complete a win as the Mets could have asked for, cruising to a 10-run margin of victory on the road. The day's most dramatic finish, the Philadelphia Phillies outlasted the Toronto Blue Jays 7-6 in a back-and-forth slugfest at Citizens Bank Park. Kyle Schwarber was the story of the game, blasting 2 home runs to power the Phillies' offense and deliver one of the day's headline fantasy performances. On the mound, Jesus Luzardo was electric across 7 innings, punching out 12 Toronto hitters, but Philadelphia's bullpen still had to hold on as the Blue Jays clawed back with production up and down their lineup from Ernie Clement, Andrés Giménez, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and Alejandro Kirk. Caleb Killian entered in relief and picked up the win, closing the door in a game that stayed tight until the final outs. Philadelphia also ran wild on the bases, with Bryce Harper, Bryson Stott, and Schwarber each swiping a bag to add another layer of pressure on Toronto's defense. Despite Luzardo's dominant strikeout total, 6 runs crossed the plate against Philadelphia's pitching staff, turning what looked like a laugher into a nail-biter. In the end, it was Schwarber's power and just enough length from the bullpen that allowed the Phillies to hang on for a 1-run win in a game that had everything: home runs, strikeouts, stolen bases, and a tense finish. The Atlanta Braves stole a low-scoring pitchers' duel from the New York Yankees, winning 2-1 at Yankee Stadium. Yankees starter Cam Schlittler was brilliant in a losing effort, striking out 11 over 7 innings, but a Matt Olson home run and just enough Atlanta offense were enough to spoil his outing. Trent Grisham answered with a solo shot of his own for New York, but it wasn't enough to overcome Atlanta's bullpen as Reyes Olivas picked up the win and Tyler Kinley closed it out with a save. It was a rough day for one of Atlanta's stars, Ronald Acuna Jr. went hitless and saw his 7-game hitting streak come to an end, even as his team found a way to win. Ozzie Albies and Mike Yastrzemski provided the complementary offense the Braves needed to back Olson's homer. Despite Schlittler's dominant strikeout day, the Yankees couldn't push across enough runs to bail him out, falling to Atlanta in a tightly contested one-run game. The Miami Marlins blew the doors off the Los Angeles Angels, winning 12-3 at Lone Depot Park. Griffin Canine was the offensive star, crushing 2 home runs in a fantasy-friendly performance that helped power Miami's lopsided win. Jose Siri answered for the Angels with a solo home run, but it barely dented the deficit. Los Angeles starter Grayson Rodriguez actually racked up 8 strikeouts across 4 innings, but the Marlins lineup was too deep, getting hits from Heriberto Hernandez, Jacob Marcy, Javier Sanoja, Kyle Stowers, and more up and down the order. Michael Peterson picked up the win out of Miami's bullpen, with Canine's 2-homer day leading the way and the Marlins spreading damage across nearly every spot in the order. This one was out of reach early, and Miami cruised the rest of the way to a 9-run victory. The Chicago Cubs pounded out a 10-2 road win over the Kansas City Royals. Ian Happ led the way going 3 for 5 with 2 RBI and a home run. Alex Bregman added a 3 for 6 night with 2 RBI of his own, and Michael Busch chipped in a 3 for 5 effort as the Cubs lineup clicked from top to bottom. Miguel Amaya also went deep for Chicago, and Nico Hoerner swiped a bag to round out an active day on the bases. On the mound, Matthew Boyd was excellent, going 7 innings and allowing just 2 earned runs with 3 strikeouts to secure the win. Kansas City's only real answer came from Starling Marte, who went deep for the Royals, but it was nowhere near enough offense to keep pace. With 3 Cubs regulars posting multi-hit games and 2 home runs in the box score, Chicago's offense simply overwhelmed a Royals pitching staff that couldn't find any answers. Chicago White Sox held off the Cleveland Guardians 5-3 at Wright Field. Colson Montgomery provided the power with a solo home run, and Brenton Doyle added a stolen base to help manufacture offense. Jose Ramirez stole a base for Cleveland and collected a hit, but the Guardians couldn't string enough together to catch up. Hagen Smith worked 2 scoreless innings out of the bullpen with 3 strikeouts to pick up the win, and Trevor Richards closed it out with a clean inning to secure the save. Stephen Kwan and Brian Rocchio also reached base for Cleveland, but the White Sox pitching staff did just enough to protect the lead the whole way. It was a solid, if unspectacular, 2-run win for Chicago in a game that saw a lengthy weather delay but no shortage of solid bullpen work on both sides. The Milwaukee Brewers edged the Minnesota Twins 4-3 in a home run-heavy affair at American Family Field. Jackson Chourio and Jake Bauers both went deep for the Brewers, while Cody Clemens and Brooks Lee answered with solo shots of their own for Minnesota, making for 4 total home runs in a tightly contested game. Jacob Misiorowski was excellent on the mound for Milwaukee, striking out 9 over 6 innings, and DL Hall picked up the win with a scoreless inning of relief. Luke Kershaw stole a base for the Twins, but it was a rough day for Minnesota's hit streaks. Both Royce Lewis and Kershaw himself saw hitting streaks end at 9 games and 7 games respectively, as neither could find a knock in this one. Despite the power surge from Clemens and Lee, Minnesota's offense went cold when it mattered, and Milwaukee's bullpen made the 1-run lead stand up for a narrow victory. Louis Cardinals took down the Colorado Rockies 7-4 at Busch Stadium. Ivan Herrera had a huge day at the plate, going 4 for 5 with an RBI to lead the Cardinals' offense, and Alec Burleson added a solo home run. Colorado tried to keep pace with home runs of their own from Hunter Goodman and Brett Sullivan, but it wasn't enough to overcome St. Louis' Lee. George Soriano picked up the win in relief, and Riley O'Brien slammed the door with a save to close it out. Jordan Walker, Brian Torres, Masson Wynn, and several other Cardinals regulars all reached base as St. Louis' offense stayed active throughout. It was a complete team effort for St. Louis, who got contributions up and down the lineup to secure a 3-run win and improve their day at home. Baltimore Orioles exploded for 4 home runs in a 10-5 rout of the Texas Rangers. Pete Alonso was the headline story, going 3 for 3 with 2 home runs and 4 RBI in one of the day's best fantasy performances, while Tyler O'Neill and Colton Cowser also went deep for Baltimore. Kobe Mayo added a 3 for 5 night to the barrage. Texas countered with a solo home run from Brandon Nimmo, but it wasn't nearly enough to keep pace with Baltimore's power surge. Gunnar Henderson and Jackson Holliday each stole a base as the Orioles pressured Texas on the bases as well as at the plate. Yermín Geraldo picked up the win out of the bullpen. With 4 total home runs in the game and Alonso's monster multi-homer, multi-RBI day leading the charge, Baltimore's offense was simply too much for the Rangers to handle in a 5-run win. The Detroit Tigers took a quiet 3-1 win over the San Francisco Giants at Oracle Park. There were no home runs in this one, and the offense stayed largely muted on both sides. Oslevis Basse provided a stolen base for the Giants, but San Francisco's lineup, including Rafael Devers and Willie Adams, could only scratch out a handful of hits and a single run. On the other side, closer Kenley Jansen came on to record the win with a scoreless inning and 3 strikeouts, while Tyler Holton locked down the save for Detroit. Zach McKinstry and Kevin McGonigal each chipped in hits to help Detroit build the cushion their bullpen would go on to protect. It was a low-key, pitching-driven affair that Detroit controlled from start to finish, picking up a road win without needing much drama to get there. The Arizona Diamondbacks knocked off the Los Angeles Dodgers 4-2 at Chase Field. Ketel Marte provided the power with his solo home run, and starter Eduardo Rodriguez was dominant on the mound, striking out 9 over 7 innings to pick up the win. Kevin Jingle closed it out with a scoreless inning to secure the save. Los Angeles got hits from Kyle Tucker, Freddie Freeman, and Andy Pages, but couldn't generate enough offense to overcome Arizona's pitching. Gabriel Morneau, Geraldo Perdomo, and Tim Tawa also reached base for the Diamondbacks as the offense stayed steady throughout. With Rodriguez cruising through Los Angeles' lineup and Marte's homer providing the cushion, Arizona controlled this one from the middle innings on for a 2-run win over one of the National League's top clubs. The Tampa Bay Rays took care of business on the road, beating the Seattle Mariners 4-1. Chandler Simpson and Yandy Diaz both had big days at the plate, each going 4 for 5 with Diaz driving in a run. Ian Seymour was excellent on the mound for Tampa Bay, going 6 innings and allowing just 1 earned run while striking out 7 to pick up the win, and Steven Matz closed it out with a save. It was a tough day for Seattle's Julio Rodriguez, who went hitless and saw his 8-game hitting streak come to an end in the loss. Josh Naylor and Taylor Ward provided some of the only offense the Mariners could muster, but it wasn't nearly enough to keep pace with Tampa Bay's balanced attack. Between Simpson and Diaz combining for 8 hits and Seymour's strong start, the Rays controlled this game wire to wire for a comfortable 3-run win. The San Diego Padres put on a home run show, blasting 4 solo shots in a 7-2 win over the Houston Astros. Jackson Merrill, Gavin Sheets, Austin Hayes, and Fernando Tatis Jr. all went deep for San Diego, powering an offense that had an answer for everything Houston threw at them. Dalton Varsho answered with a solo home run of his own for the Astros, but it wasn't enough to keep pace with San Diego's power display. Randy Vasquez picked up the win for the Padres, allowing 2 earned runs over 5 innings. It was also a rough night for Houston's Christian Walker, who went hitless and saw his 8-game hitting streak come to an end in the loss. Luis Rengifo, Freddie Fermin, Manny Machado, and Ty France all chipped in hits as well, giving San Diego contributions up and down the lineup. With 4 different Padres going deep, this was one of the most complete offensive performances of the day for San Diego. It was a rough day for some of baseball's hottest hitters as several notable streaks came to an end. Andrew Monasterio's 9-game hit streak was snapped in Boston's loss to Oakland, and Royce Lewis saw his own 9-game run end in Minnesota's loss to Milwaukee. Seattle's Julio Rodriguez had his 8-game hit streak stopped in the loss to Tampa Bay, while Atlanta's Ronald Acuna Jr. saw his 7-game streak end even as the Braves won in New York. Fantasy managers had plenty to watch today. Kyle Schwarber PHI went deep twice in Philadelphia's win, and Griffin Canine MIA matched him with a 2-homer game of his own. Pete Alonso BEL was even better, going 3 for 3 with 2 home runs and 4 RBI in Baltimore's blowout. On the multi-hit side, Bo Bichette NYM went a perfect 5 for 5 with 3 RBI, Keibert Ruiz WSH posted a clean 3 for 3 day, and Ellie White BOS chipped in a 3 for 4 effort, all streaming worthy lines for anyone scanning the waiver wire. That's a wrap on today's action around the league. Hit subscribe so you never miss a recap, and we'll see you back here tomorrow for more MLB highlights.